Cancer, the moon is in Capricorn, and now she's asking us, what do you want to achieve? Where do you see yourself going, and how are you going to get there? Stay tuned to find out more, Cancer. But before we jump into that, for those of you who are returning, welcome back, Soul Tribe. I appreciate your subscriptions, your likes, and shares. Your support really is just motivational, Cancer, and it keeps us growing. And for those of you who are new, welcome to the Chariot Friends. Justin here, and I'm happy Higher Self has brought you here. We're in for an amazing journey. And the purpose of this channel, for those of you who have Cancer in your placement, Sun, Moon, Rising, Venus, Mars, Saturn, wherever, Cancer, this one's for you. And I do tarot card spreads based off our Brooklyn hit, the good old moon. And I'll talk about what sign she's in, what phase she's in, and when she's going void of course, just all of those lunar shenanigans. And just so you're all aware, this is a general reading, not a one-to-one, so take what resonates with you, leave the rest with me, never force a reading on a situation, and everything will be dope, Cancer. Now, let's jump into it. All right, Cancer, your space has been cleansed. Crystals, feeling lovely. Just great energy all around here, Cancer. And Cancer, happy Moon Day. Hopefully you had a wonderful weekend. You enjoyed some of that Moon and Sagittarius energy. Hopefully you enjoyed the void of course time there that happened during that time there too. Cancer took some time to reflect. But Moon days, these are, the Moon is associated with Mondays, Cancer. And the Moon days are really great for, I feel, kind of just tuning into the emotional landscape, checking in to see how you're doing. You know, it's really great for intuitive practices as well. Maybe doing some tarot, maybe this is doing some scrying, maybe it's working with crystals, maybe it's looking into the astrology. But this can also be a great time to just to, I feel, especially if you've been feeling a lot of emotions maybe, and if you happen to have this time off, this could be some great stuff to do some things around the home, maybe declutter the space, clean some things up. This can also be a favorable time for working with women, you know, considering that the moon deals with those feminine energies. So this could be something where you want to be more around your female friends, you know, just kind of kick it, just kind of be in that sort of that more feminine energy. So that's something to think about as well. But it's a very nurturing energy when we're getting into the moon days. And if, speaking of all this feminine energy, I bring that up as well because the lovely Empress Venus has just moved into Taurus, and that is the place where Venus finds dignity, where she's domicile in Taurus. And this is, I feel like, an extra special day to really just kind of just tend to yourself there, Cancer. Think about your needs. And I feel like this is a great energy to do some, it's a very interesting energy. This could, I feel it can be a very rich self-care day, just considering too where the moon's at, Cancer. Let's kind of get into that, but because I'll talk, if you want to know a bit more about this whole Venus entering into Taurus transit, you can check, I go into more details about this on my other channel, Alchemist Day, where I go into that astrological weather a bit more detailed. But Venus in Taurus is a lovely energy. This is a time, I like to think of it as the Empress has returned to the garden, and now she's just kind of tending to her home. She feels really strong here. So this is surrounding ourselves with things that fill us up with, I feel like, peace. This is a time to surround yourself with nature sounds and really getting in tune with the earth and really kind of tuning into where you need to find more peace, where you can feel a bit more grounded in your energies there, Cancer. But also too, and I feel like this is the really kind of nice, all this rich earth energy, because also the moon is in a waning gibbous in Capricorn. Now this is normally a tricky placement for the moon because the moon is in detriment in Capricorn, because it's the opposite sign of the sign that she's at home in Cancer. And what that really means is just like the moon has to work a little bit harder to accomplish, you know, these more kind of, to navigate that emotional landscape than if she were in like a water sign, or even in, let's say, even like Taurus would be another earth sign where she operates a bit well, or if she was like in, yeah, I'd say like other water signs, or even in fire signs, I feel the moon does very well then. But the reason this one can be so tough is that I feel when you're thinking about Capricorn, Capricorn is who I want to be, who I want, what I want to achieve. And, ooh, absolutely Cancer. I love that. Okay, so we'll talk about that in a moment. But it's the who do I want to be? And Capricorn energy is one that I feel like it gets tied into the career in modern days, because usually with what I want to be, it is Capricorn is embodying that wholly, but it's a bit bigger than that when you're thinking about Capricorn energy. This is getting almost along the lines of like destiny. They're associated with the 10th house, which is like your midheaven, what you could be called to do, and it's also too like how the public sees you, how people who don't know you associate you as like, they're the vegan, or they're the activist, or they're the swimmer, or they're the dancer, or they're the janitor. Those are very kind of Capricorn 10th house things. But this, I feel like, is an energy with everything that has gone on. Do you feel that what you are striving for, does it really resonate with who you are? And I'm not saying perfectly, because of course there can be, we all have this sort of like ideal view of where we want to be. But do we feel that we are following the proper structure and disciplines in order to get there? Because when you get into Capricorn, of course, we have to talk about Saturn. And Saturn gets a really bad rep. Saturn, I feel people see Saturn as doom and gloom, and that he just blocks things. And Saturn is a reminder that Saturn does what he wants to do. Saturn has been doing Saturn since the beginning of time, and that's what he wants us to do. He just wants us to do us. But in order to do that, there are going to be challenges such as scrutiny. Saturn is a very important planet in our chart, but a lot of the times we have troubles maybe working with Saturn, because he does ask a lot of us, because we want a lot for ourselves. In Saturn, I feel sometimes when it comes with Capricorn, when you're thinking about what you want to do, and this may be partly with the culture too, that sometimes I feel we forget that those types of big Capricorn dreams take time. Saturn is associated with time, and Saturn is a patient one. And I feel Saturn reminds us to be patient with ourselves. He doesn't put up these roadblocks and things, I feel like, to stop us. He's just like, hey, this is the criteria, and this is what you're working with. I feel the Saturn in Pisces has been one where it's not been wanting to disenchant you on your dream, but it is wanting you to be realistic about the process that it takes there. It gives me the idea of, like, let's say, for example, that story of the person working in the restaurant with these amazing skills waiting to be discovered by an agent or something. Life that's not to say that can happen or can't happen, but do we really want to gamble on that? It takes work. We have to network. We have to put ourselves out there. We have to socialize. We have to hone these skills. There's a lot that comes with that. And sometimes that I feel that weight can be a lot. And that's where the moon, I feel like, kinds of struggles in Capricorn, because there are times where she wants to crack under the pressure. She's feeling a lot of emotions. This is too much. This is too, even though this is what we want. So it's just like, why does this, then we get into like that whole, but Capricorn is that reminder, I feel, in a healthy way. It's like, it's not where we're shutting off the emotions. It's just where it's like, yes, I feel your emotions. Now, how can I fuel that into, how do I want to put this? It's like, for example, with like the grind, I say, I guess a good example would be work with what I'm doing. Like, trying to get my messages kind of out there on YouTube. It's a grind. It's a hustle. But I do know that if I want to get a bigger push and a bigger influence, I have to put myself out there more. I have to put in the work to get more familiar with social media, which was something that I wasn't doing. I had been off social media for a decade. So it's like I'm like learning a whole new lingo. That's like, and this has been around for a while, and people look at me like, wow, Justin, you've been in Iraq. But these are the Saturnian things that Saturn, but it's interesting because I've been really thinking a lot about Saturn here recently. I was actually born during the hour of Saturn, so and Saturn is actually, between Saturn and my midheaven, actually is my strongest aspect. So I think about Saturn quite a bit, and Saturn may have a heavy hand, but it's a supportive one. He just reminds you, he keeps it real. He's just like, if we're gonna play in this land, if you're gonna do all these things, you have to do all of the things. Like you're there's just like, it's a little bit different than with Jupiter, who gives you this faith, who gives you this quest. He promises all this expansion and growth and things, but Saturn is just like, if anything, Jupiter is painted as the good guy, but he's pretty much just like, all right, you can do all these things. All right, Saturn, tell him how. And Saturn's just like, oh, F. And then people don't like Saturn. But the thing I feel that Capricorn can really, or at least what I would like to think, that Capricorn energy that can really feel that, unlike any other sign, is that when they've put in that work, when they put in that grit, and you start to see your accomplishments come to life, you can look at yourself and like with pride and with this sense of like, almost like look at yourself with reverence even. But I feel like Capricorn really feels like a job well done. Like that sense of accomplishment. There's something, that's what Saturn gives you. That sense of you've learned something, you've matured, you've gone through these challenges, you face these things in the face of impossibility. You did it. And that's what Saturn wants us to do. He wants us to remove these restrictions. He doesn't want, shows you limitations that you can break, that you can go in. Of course, there are confines within this, of course. But I feel one big thing, too, with this energy, considering that it's in the waning gibbous, is that I do feel it is taking like this internal audit, especially with Venus being in the mix. Just, do we feel that how is our relationship with accomplishment, with achievement, with ambition, and it's like, have you been basing yours off of, I feel like more so is what I'm feeling, is have you been basing it off of what other people is doing, how other people have been doing ambition, or do you need to refine your definition or reestablish your definition with it? It's not saying that you're being lazy, but it's meeting yourself where you're at and working with how you need to work with. Some people have, are just naturals at things. In others, in other areas, we all have different areas where we excel in. I'll see people who are like, oh my gosh, I wish you were like, they'll say like, I'll talk about my Leo placements and just like how gregarious I can be. They're like, oh, I wish I could blah, 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 be that outspoken, that this and that. You're just such a natural. And it's like, well, I wish that I could do, I look at your chart and it's like, man, I would love to do blah, 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 blah. And even just how I know you as a person, I could blah, 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 blah. So it's like, I feel like we all kind of compare ourselves to each other. But I feel like it's how can we turn it from a way of wanting to, how do we take it from like a judging place to a more so like a compassionate place, a kind of meeting ourselves where we're at? That they're going to be, everyone has pitfalls and they have triumphs. And a lot of deep stuff I kind of feel with this. And I feel there's even just like a letting go of just like how you even could view how you can get to your goals even here, Cancer. Hopefully that makes sense. And if you've been, because it's interesting to kind of talk about this a little broadly, but if you're curious about how this energy is working more personally in your chart, book a reading with me, Cancer. For example, Saturn is traveling through my 8th house right now, and that has been bringing up a lot of stuff has been coming in my face as far as like joint finance. A lot of energies have been fusing together. I need to feel a bit more responsible. The idea of it's been because the Saturn is being in Pisces. Yeah, it goes through my 8th house, and so it's been a interesting relationship that I've been kind of forming here with Saturn. It has been overall been very beneficial. It's been motivating. It's been realistic. It's been a little tough, but it has been very realistic. I've been coming from a more grounded approach than I feel like I have in the past. So, and this is in two, when the moon's traveling through Capricorn, she's traveling through my 10th house. Interestingly enough, this is, not through my 10th house, she'd be going through my 6th house right about now. So this is where, she's getting into my place of like my daily routines and how am I working on crafting a skill. It's a busier time for me. It's a time where I can get a lot of stuff done and I really kind of like when I'm in Capricorn energy, because that is when I am a bit more efficient, and it just so happens to tie where my 6th house stuff cusp starts. And so I kind of can use that as a way to restructure things, or like, okay, that didn't quite work out. Let me try it this way. So these are just some examples of how you can work with your energies. And listen, I'm one too. I've learned having a Gemini moon, if I don't write things down, it just floats all over the place. It's like I have to have it written down somewhere or something. Otherwise it'll just stay a thought. It'll hover in my orbit like so many stars. But just like so many stars, sometimes they don't have the focus, and so I get to them when I get to them. So that's been something I've been needing to work with. And my Gemini moon's in such it's an early degree, so it's a very active one. It's a new landscape for me in this go round. So these are just some ways that you can look at your energies, and where you can look at yourself a bit more compassionately, but even find the strength in that as well. Because it's like where I was talking about the flaws, look at what strength has done, because now it's taught me to be more organized. It ebbs and flows, waxes and wanes, all balances out there, Cancer. So if that's something that resonates with you, book a reading with me. I have that information down in the description box and also on my Instagram page as well there, Cancer. And also down in the description box, check out, there's this reader, Jamie. She does fantastic work. Her channels are the lips of wisdom and the ears of understanding, and it's just from the mental health aspect approach that she comes from, which I really love, that fusion of that and the tarot in the mix. It's really, really cool. From the book clubs that she hosts every couple of weeks, it's a really great community that she is building over there. So, and she has a channel over there that's for Cancer too, because Cancer energy is we're coming for them. So yeah, that's something that interests you. Definitely check that out. But let's go ahead and get into your general energy of the day here, Cancer, because I love this. You got the butterfly spirit here, which is a card of transformation. And I like that this is the 8th card too, because that's the strength card. And there is strength in transformation, in metamorphosis. And I like that this comes up with Capricorn, because one thing I was feeling too when I was kind of meditating on this energy was a looking in the mirror as far as like who you are transforming into. How have you been integrating the lessons into your life, or have you not been doing that? Have things been feeling a little chaotic, and it's been needing time to get grounded? Because this is, I feel like, going to be a nice time to do that. We've been in a lot of kind of heavy stellium energy, and that's when you have a high concentration of planets in one house or one sign. And now we're getting ready to move from all that Aries. We've been in a lot of heavy Aries for a while, and we're going to move into this Taurus energy for a little bit, a while. It's a time to kind of, I feel this is a great time to find some ways to get some peace with all and find a way to integrate all of the ways you have transformed and acknowledge all the things that you have gone through. Maybe you haven't had a real moment to just kind of process this. You just had to be kind of go, 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 go. And so, I feel that this is, I really am getting this thing too, when I was talking about Saturn and how he goes about distributing lessons. Sometimes when I think about, like, I just went through a Saturn return a few years ago, and that's something that we all cyclically go through when we're talking about these kind of outer planets, these generational things. Well, we go through these Saturn returns and squares, but the big ones are like the Saturn returns when Saturn makes that conjunction, and you usually get one around like your mid to late, or around your like later 20s. It again depends on your chart, to around 30s, and then we have another one, our second Saturn return. You usually get about 3 in a lifetime, depending on the journey. But I remember my Saturn return was one I'd spent a lot of time just not doing anything. It was just sort of, there was really kind of no structure. And then just one day it was just kind of, there was this voice that was just like, hey, this isn't gonna work. And that was it. It was so clear. I still remember it to this day. It was just a feel. I couldn't tell you what day it was, but I do remember the feeling. It was just something just as clear as day. And Saturn is, again, that energy of the maturation process, the idea of becoming the adult. And it's taking the thing with the relationship between Cancer and Capricorn. Cancer is more internal, more emotional, more reflective, more inside. And it's not to say that Capricorn can't do that, but the focus is more so there when you get in Cancer. And the reason that there is that opposition, because Capricorn is that outwardly expression, of what now I've processed all of this, and now this is how everyone is seeing me and seeing this transformation. And I feel like that I'm getting an energy of maybe for some even either a discomfort maybe of how you're walking in this energy, or maybe even there might be a guilt, or maybe a shame, or maybe even like a fraud. This could be like an imposter syndrome that comes through. And keep in mind, Cancer, when we're thinking about, because listen, I have my moon's in the 10th house, and so this is something that I've had to work on, where I care a lot about what people think about me. Like, not to the point where I'll people please, but for the point where I do, I will work hard. I have in growing up, I would be the one that I wanted to make sure that people saw my value. That it was like I was kind of like approving something, and when I would hear that, it's just like, well, duh, because look, I bring it all the time. But there's always that internal pressure of like, but what if I don't bring, if people see me in this light, if I don't always bring this I've set this standard, and if I don't bring it all the time, then what do people think of me? But these are things that I think of me. What people think about me. I just saw a post not too long ago. I've been getting a little more active. I saw a post not too long ago where it was like, what other people feel about me is none of my business. And that's Capricorn. I feel like that's Capricorn all day. And it's like just in its purest form. It's not about what everyone else thinks. It's about what you want to. That's all Saturn wants. When you really break him down, what do you want? And granted, again, he has things that you have to do to get to that. I can want to be the greatest musician, but I have to put in some hours to get there. I'm not just going to be able to go to a piano and play Mozart. Even Mozart, he wasn't Mozart. That didn't mean anything. Mozart had to make his name something. But that's a great expression of Saturn, because I'm sure he had his downfall. Think of the time period that he was growing up in. Times were tough, but he challenged, he powered through and made a mark in history. And so I feel like it's taking these inner transformations that are going on and not being afraid to show them as well, because maybe this could be where, and that I feel like that's always a nice transition when we move from Capricorn into Aquarius, because which Saturn is the guardians of both Capricorn and Aquarius. He shares with Uranus, but at the end of the day, when it comes to Capricorn, the thing that you're doing for you, if no one's opinions mattered, if you didn't have to, it's just you and your higher self. How do you want to change? What do you want to do? What do you want to achieve? And it's going out and doing that thing. And then I feel it's like in that higher calling, that's how you go from that Capricorn to Aquarius. You take that out into the world, and then it's everyone gets to experience a different side. It can be just a whole beautiful thing. But let's get some tarot on this and get some more energy on this transformation that you're going through, Cancer. And committing to change is a discipline, Cancer. Hold on. Thanks, higher self. I feel that Saturn is also a reminder that these sort of 10th house, well, more so going to the 11th house, when we get into that Saturn and Aquarius energy, we may not fully realize that energy that is coming through. We may not, well, maybe we might. We may not realize that, but I feel like as long as we're walking in that path, that's what is the point at the day. It's the appreciation of the journey and what you're learning towards that thing, towards that embodiment, not necessarily what you're... Cancer, let me tell you what's going on here, because you got a lot happening with this. And you got the Emperor and the Empress here, Aries and Venus. Oh, how lovely. And then with Venus having just entered into Taurus. And then you have, and Mars will be entering into Aries the following day, tomorrow, depending on when you're watching this. So I love that. And then you have the Knight of Cups and the Ten of Wands here. And that's very interesting that Venus and Aries would pop up here, considering Venus would have just left Aries. And so I find that symbolism very important, Cancer, because I feel that the Emperor is this sense of responsibility. But it's interesting. Saturn is he's in fall in Aries. And I bring that up just to say, because when you think about Aries energy, it sometimes can just wants to go after what it wants. It wants the things and then goes for it, but it doesn't think about the inner shadow side. It doesn't quite take to account all of the things all of the challenges that may come its way, the burdens that may come with that. When I'm thinking with the Ten of Wands here. And it feels like this Emperor is... I feel that, Cancer, we all have very big dreams, and it's not like we can't accomplish them. But I feel that if you want these abundance, this Empress energy, it's something that it's not just going to fall into our lap. This is something that you have to bring your power. I love the Knight of Cups in this deck, because the crab represents the power of the ocean. Cancer, you represent the power of the ocean. You're the cardinal water sign. But I feel that in this transformation, that brings up a lot of emotions when we're working towards these goals and what we want to be. There are different hurdles and burdens and things, and it is tough, and it can be depressing, and it can lead to fear and all this. The shadow side of Saturn, when I like how Stephen Forrest talks about Saturn or the planets as teachers and tricksters. And Saturn the trickster is one that tells you, yeah, you can't do this. Yeah, why bother? It doesn't matter. That's stupid. No, you could never. But that's not, that is so opposite Saturn. Saturn's you absolutely can, and here are the steps to do it. Some of them are hard. You know, some of them are harder than others, but it's just because you have emperor dreams, Cancer. You have royal dreams here, Empress. You know, you're doing a lot, Cancer, and I'm with it. But it does take a lot of internal strength, I feel, with the Knight of Cups, a lot of emotional wisdom that it comes with this, because, you know, if you're, especially I feel like when we're thinking about this Cancer sun and even like a Cancer rising energy, because the rising is how we translate all of these energies, that development, that personality. You know, when Cancer sun rising, that is understanding who I am through emotions. And then the house, you know, kind of dictates the terrain and how you're doing that. Mine is through the 12th house. So it's through that kind of, how do I let go of these, of like, how do I transcend my transformations through life? You know, how do I accept something of a larger scale, something larger than myself, you know, through, and that's been through meditation, through tarot, through astrology. These have been just some of the things that I have been doing. But just for example, for me, it has been, there are some very clear things. I noticed some very clear, like, challenges in myself. And it's different for everyone. Transformation looks differently. How I look at some people's energy and I think, man, I would do this, and that with this. But I bet the same people, if they, you know, would read my chart with that same, you know, that's with the same knowledge, they'd be like, oh, I would do this, and that with your energy. And I have been told this, and that. So it's, I feel that there is this energy here, all that to say, Cancer, that there's this responsibility with the Emperor for our own transformation, for getting to our own abundance. And it's not that we're not going to have help, but no one can force us to change. We have to want to change, whether that is trying to trying to get to where you're feeling more comfortable in your body. I won't even necessarily say lose weight, but it's just feeling more comfortable in your skin, in your body, or if this is your career, or if this is how you act in relationships, or if this is how you know, whatever it is you're trying to form, this is something that you have to, it's like, I feel like there's this, because Saturn will push you. Because Saturn is that energy of a reminder too, when I'm thinking with Capricorn. You know, the 10th house can be associated with fame, prestige, and things, and that can be a negative expression of that. And not that you get the fame, it's the seeking of that, doing it for the fame and not for the passion, where your ambitions get kind of lost in, you know, what's actually driving the motivations behind that vehicle. But yeah, it's more so about the without all of the things, even when this sucks, even when you're having just an awful day, do you still, if this is, does this thing still define you? Does this thing still fill you up? Even when I was feeling my emotions, when I was kind of going through that Scorpio energy, as soon as I got into the tarot, I felt so much better. You know, and again, the problems didn't go away, but now I felt in a better place, a more grounded place to deal with that, to handle that type of stuff. So that's just one thing to, hopefully that kind of makes sense, Cancer. Now let's get some more on this, see what's going on here. Oh, interesting, Cancer. Think of yourself. So you have the Knight of Wands, the Prince of Wands, the Queen of Cups, the Princess of Cups, the Four of Wands, which is Venus and Aries, and then the Two of Disc here, Cancer. There's a lot of people came here. Oh, look at Wifey here, King and Queen of Cups. And you know, Cancer, and even with the Princess, Cancer, I do feel that, again, there's a lot of emotions that come up with the transformation process here. I feel with with both the Princess and the Queen of Cups here. But I feel even just thinking about, I love this, Cancer. Even thinking about that transformation from a princess to a queen, or a prince to a knight. You know, the change in this, there are things that have to evolve. And I love this, almost like this how this succession is happening here, from queens to knights to the emperor and empress. You know, in order to get into this transformation, into your achievement, and even with this waning gibbous phase, if I have queen dreams being a princess, there are some princess things that I'm gonna have to let go. There are some things that are going to be a benefit, but I have to start thinking more like a queen. That's not going to help me. Or same thing with the prince. If I'm gonna get to a knight, I have to start thinking like a knight. Prince, I can't be. Oh, there's this reader that I like, and I love how she puts this. It's like butterfly people can't speak caterpillar language, and I don't think it's meant to be in like a condescending type of thing. It is meant to be that if you're trying to be in that frequency, you have to, there are certain things that you have to do. You know, it's just like how, even just thinking in the processes of life, you know, at some point, I got to get out of my crib because it's going to be too small. And that's just being a little silly. But just in that process of transformation, there are times where I feel this Four of Wands, we can get so caught up on what we're letting go of, even just thinking how we're talking about this in the waning phase, where we're technically letting go of things, but we're doing that in order to bring something new in and get towards that emperor, empress goals that we're striving for. And so with all this fire and all this water that I feel that are coming through with all these people, I feel the people that you surround yourself with are going to be of course, are a big help with that, Cancer. But I don't feel necessarily that we're necessarily changing your group, but more so changing how you're interacting maybe with your group, you know, expressing how you are transforming. You know, maybe that could be a limiting factor. And I'm almost even getting, there's this like maybe subconscious, or maybe it's a conscious thing, that maybe for some we're allowing others to put a certain role on us so that we don't have to transform even. And maybe in that we may have even vilified someone, possibly. So that's even something to keep in mind there, Cancer. But and that's one more thing too, Cancer. I really am getting this energy where just because you may have done something, or something may have defined you one way in the past, that doesn't mean that it still defines you now. Or if this is something where, let's say, like I may not I haven't been as active in music as I would have liked, but I don't see myself as any less of a musician, or that it hasn't had a bigger impact. If anything, I feel that music has been one of the reasons why I was able to, like, really getting into charts and reading the symbols and things were really easy for me, because I took Japanese in high school and a little bit in college, and even that I found like really simple. Like of course it was work, but it was the fluency there, because my brain was used to working like that, you know, by Mercury and Leo in the 12th house. So I work with abstract things like that works for me. And I feel like it's seeing how those things can help you evolve. Like something about like, I just think that if that resonates. But let's get some advice from Saturn. Oh, I love this. All right, Cancer. Think yourself last little bit here. Interesting. All right, we got, wow, very interesting, Cancer. So the whole Cups family is here. So here's the Prince of Cups. So you have the Prince of Cups, the Queen of Swords, the Five of Discs, the Eight of Discs, and the Lust card here, Leo energy. And let's switch back over here, Cancer. because that's very fascinating. So one thing, Cancer. I was just thinking, it's like, wait a minute, the lust card isn't the ninth card. They switched them a little. I think it's the lust card and the adjustment card. I think the numbers are reversed. I think that one might be number 8 in this deck, but in the Rider White deck, the strength card is number 8 here with the lust card. But I find that interesting here because there is strength in transformation, but I feel that our relationship with transformation isn't always the best, and it can bring up a lot because it brings up a lot of emotions. Because the Prince of Cups, for me, this is Scorpio energy. When we're going towards, I don't know, change is hard, especially when we're trying to work towards our goals. It's not that I feel that it's, I feel like the 5 of disc here, that maybe for some we may be worrying about what we don't have in order to, like, oh, I don't have the stuff of an empress or an emperor, so I'm not, how can I possibly, and this again, apply this to what you're doing. Like, let's say I'm trying to become a lawyer, but I don't have the schooling. Okay, and college is expensive. Absolutely. What can I do? Can I get some loans? Can I get some this? Can I get, how can we start brainstorming instead of focusing on what you don't have? Focus with your worth. I had to do something where I had to call on some internet skills not too long ago. I was actually quite proud of myself that I was able to get this doctored up, or get this whole thing, all this paperwork together, but it required a little something I learned from someone. It's a whole thing, but it was. What I'm getting at is, it's just like, I feel like you have more that you're working with, Cancer. This Queen of Swords to the 8 of Discs than I feel like you realize, but we've maybe are looking at it maybe only one type of way, and that's why it's not working, because it doesn't work for you. Like, I do have a Gemini moon, and I can process information really fast. There's some points where I do visuals help, or like actions help, something where I'm seeing this and experiencing that. Otherwise, it just sort of like, if it's explained in a sort of, in a dull, I don't want to say dull, but kind of in where, if it's lacking color, in zest, Leo things, then my mind does my imagination gets away from me, and then I'm off. I'm kind of listening to you. I know enough social cues to be like, to put up a facade of a functioning person here, which is something that I'm working on. But what I'm feeling with this answer is that the transformation shows you that you have a lot more, that you're worth a lot more than you realize, and that you have a lot more value than I feel like you realize, and that you can achieve your goals. Because even when you're needing to call on other people for help, the fact that those people are available in your life is another value, because you have people that a great support group. Because I feel like, look at this tight family here with the cups, they're all here together, and I like that. And I feel like in that emotional support at that too. And so that may be something, and this feels a little more specific, so just take this as it resonates. If you're having a tough time with transformation and you don't feel, because the Cups family, that's a tricky area depending on where we're at. I feel like this is, of course, at a high vibration. This is looking for a very high, having a group that is emotionally available, has the emotional intelligence to talk about their feelings and that they're going through things. But be mindful of, sometimes I feel the Cups family can get a little too enmeshed. There's no boundaries with each other. And sometimes that needs to be, and that's how things get put on each other, and we're not sure whose is what, and it becomes a hot mess. And I feel the Queen of Cups in all of this, she's impressionable to the energies of those around her, and she reflects them in that pool. And so That's something I feel to be mindful of there. And again, I don't feel like it's just like we're just changing our group necessarily, but this could be just transforming how we're showing up in the group. So that's just another thing I feel to think about. That's something where, for example, where I tend to tell someone who's been going through some tough emotions, it's like, it's not that I don't want to hear what you're saying, but when you come to me with the world's on fire, I take that on and I start to stress because everything in me is like, well, then how do I fix that? And then I feel like then that spurs up things in me that may not necessarily be a crisis in that moment, and now I don't know what to do with that. So I've had to tell people where it's just like, if you're like, oh my gosh, this is you gotta know, no, we're not coming with dumpster fires. You're coming with a dumpster fire, but also bring a fire hydrant or a bucket or something. Like, don't just be, so that could be something too, just to be mindful of there. And if you don't have that supportive group, looking into that, whether this be some sort of group out there. This could be maybe like in some sort of anonymous group, or some sort of, if you don't have let's say for like insurance or things, or, I feel like where there's a will, there's a way in this. But, all right, Cancer, I think I'm going to leave that there. But if anything resonated with you like that, Cancer, give it a thumbs up. And share this, Cancer, because we're all going through transformations, and I feel like this lunar cycle has been a doozy. But I do feel also, and I do, that almost like, I'll give you a little preview with this. I like the Sabian symbol for where this new moon is going to be falling in Taurus. It is talking about a new continent arising from the ocean. And how I kind of felt this last one was similar to a volcano going off, because it was so much Aries energy. That talk about, King of Wands, and I had to describe this lunar cycle, it's King of Wands, Knight of Wands all day. But now it's like after the volcano, I feel like the land forms. In that what can seem as like a disaster, now new land has been produced. Something has been crafted from that, a new foundation to lay on. So that's something I feel like to look forward to. But subscribe, you Emperor and you Empresses. Hit that bell button to get notified of these videos each day. And then last little bit there, after you get them, we get done taking your chart there, Cancer, getting familiar with your strengths and the transformations that are coming in your life. Come on over to my other channel, Alchemist Date. I talk about that. What do I do over there? I talk about the celestial weather of that. I'm thinking about changing the title of that. I think that may happen with this next one that I'm going to do. Stay tuned for that, Cancer. And all that housekeeping is down in the description box below. But let me get your surprise cards here, so I can get you out of here, Cancer. Because absolutely, with transformation comes success, Cancer. You got the Six of Pentacles here, or Six of Discs. And with this Six of Disc, just thinking with where this moon's at, with thinking who you're trying to transform into, with who you are. Do you see that clearly with the Queen of Swords? Do you feel that with the Queen of Cups? Does that invigorate you, Knight of Wands? Where are you sitting with where things are going, where stuff has been happening? And then I feel the areas where we're not feeling that hype, that it's paying attention, because the Six of Disc is that energy of reciprocity, where I'm giving, what's giving to me and what I'm giving back, and where's that flow that's happening. When I think about some things, like when I think about the podcast that I've been listening to, that's something where I've been getting information from that. And that's allowed me to put some stuff out there too, new perspectives that I hadn't thought about and stuff. But then when I thought about how I used to relate with music and things, that relationship has changed, and I don't give as much to that. I still give to it, but just not as much as I used to. That used to paint I had a whole totally different relationship with it. And that's something too I feel like is very important when you talk about that Venus entering into Taurus. Venus is more than just about those relationships with people. It's how you stay in harmony with all the chaos that goes on around you. and just where we're giving our energies to with that Six of Pentacles there. But let me get your oracle card here, Cancer, so I can get you out of here. Ooh, I like that, Cancer. Take care of yourself. So you have the Nightingale spirit here, which is a card of love is all around there, Cancer, and absolutely with the Empress here, love is all around. And that's what I feel. Let that fuel your transformation, Cancer. Give yourself, so especially with the Queen of Cups and the Empress, feed yourself so much love as you're going through these processes. There may be sides of you that may come into, that you may look into it at a different light, but I also feel like in that realization, let another light shine on that. Like, okay, like, oh, that's a side of me. But also, oh, okay, that's a side of me. Like, this side comes out of me when I'm in this situation. And then you start to see your relationships with certain parts of you, with you, you know, and all the multifacets of you, because you're complex, Cancer. You're not just a singular linear being. You know, you're a divine spirit and going through this experience, and there's a lot of strengths in that. But I feel that that's this love, especially with all these cups. I feel surround yourself with so much love in all this transformation, Cancer. If not from anyone else, at least put it in yourself. You know, put that love here, and then watch how that does expand out. That can expand out, because when you start loving yourself, then I feel like intuitively, instinctively, your actions you just start changing. You know, you start taking actions. All of a sudden, we're not putting our time into those relationships. Or, oh, this thing doesn't do X for me, or whatever this is looking like. And then just the love starts to surround you, and it is all around you. And then it just makes, I feel, this transformation. And I feel like this is a lot of, because Cancer, this is basically my journey. When I'm thinking, I try to keep the love around me all the time when I'm going through changes. Because there's some times where I think of, you know, I got some, we can talk about life, Cancer. But we can also celebrate life, Cancer, you know, and in all the changes that go around, the not so great ones, the great ones, and everything in between. And know that when we come at it with love and understanding, I feel like it just something about the process gets a little easier, Cancer. But I think I'm gonna leave that there. You stay safe out there, Cancer. Well, I'm trying to change that up because someone had just said something about the word. Stay mindful out there, Cancer. Stay aware. Stay sharp. You know, when I think about safe, of course I want you to stay safe too. But don't. I feel we're in this place of like safety in the term of like comfort zones and things. We want to try to push that a little bit more. I feel like we are in a time of evolution here, you know, because that is a thing with Taurus. Taurus can want to cling to security at all costs. So that's something to be mindful of. Be open, be aware of the changes, and how do I find my stability in that. And keep eyes on the moon there, Cancer. Yeah, absolutely. Because I feel that, we are going through just a collective transformation. And, you know, I was really kind of thinking real heavily about Saturn is getting ready to wrap up his 30-year cycle, you know, being in these last few years in Pisces. And then him and Neptune are going to be forming this conjunction at 0 degrees of Aries. And so I bring that all up to say that I feel that transformation and learning to embrace this stuff is going to be, I feel, very important over these next couple of years and over these next couple decades. So, you know, how our relationship with change and things and putting more love around, I feel, is going to be very beneficial for us, or could be very beneficial going forward. And I will catch you, Cancer, on the next one tomorrow.